I apologize ahead of time if I'm a little bit low energy in this video today. I've been sick all week. I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got it. It might just be a bug going around. It might be bad street pizza. But I've just been in a torturous hell all weekend. I've become very acquainted with not only my bathroom, but the bathroom at work. Here's some footage of that. Oh! Welcome back to another video. I'm Trevor and I am eternally uncool. I am not a music critic. I tried doing track reviews a few years ago, back when I filmed on just my laptop and I didn't have a microphone and I didn't know how to edit. Today I want to do something a little different, something I've never done on this channel before, and that's review music. Well, what do you think you are? Think you're Anthony Fantano now? You think you're Anthony Fantano now? You think you're Melon Boy? Think you have what it takes to review a fucking song with no fucking song reviewing experience, huh? You think you can do that? You think you're Anthony Fantano? Looking back, those videos weren't that bad. It sounds like the kind of song you dance to and just be like, hey, I'm having a good time. What is this about? But they definitely weren't good. I don't know anything about musicology or music production or music theory or anything like that. I'm no Anthony Fantano. Hell, I'm not even John from ARTV. Reviews are just not my thing. When an album drops and I listen to it and it's not my thing, I kind of just move on. I don't even pay it a second mind. I was going to review that new Mod Sun album, but 2 tracks in, I knew what I was in for, and I just didn't want to waste time writing a script and just talking about an album I knew I wasn't going to enjoy. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not a music review channel. So why am I doing it now? I like to challenge myself. That's why I started posting videos once a week. As a challenge. Making videos is a challenge. Editing them and making it interesting, that's a challenge. Reviewing an entire album, let alone a highly anticipated one from one of the most beloved bands of all time, is a challenge. A big challenge. And maybe a stupid one. But it's a challenge I'm willing to face nonetheless. Fall Out Boy is one of the biggest bands to come out of the 2000s. They're one of the few bands from that era of the scene to transcend the emo tag. Their fans are multi-generational. Whether you're 15 or 35, you know at least one Fall Out Boy song. In case you don't know who Fall Out Boy is, which how do you not? They're a pop-punk band that formed in Chicago in the early 2000s. They were all members of hardcore bands who wanted to try something different, inspired by the likes of New Found Glory and the Get Up Kids. They mixed hardcore instrumentation with soulful vocals and poppy hooks. They became one of the biggest rock bands of that time with songs like Sugar We're Going Down, Dance Dance, Thanks for the Memories, and America's Sweethearts. They took a hiatus in the 2010s and came back around 2013, 2014 with a more polished pop sound. I made a whole video about their 7th album and how it wasn't really as successful as the other ones and how they haven't released anything in almost 5 years. I look like Wendigoon. Now, Fall Out Boy has released their 8th studio album, So Much for Stardust. Many of the fans saw this as a return to form. It sounds like From Under the Cork Tree, getting real Infinity vibes. Guitars! But does this album hold up to Fall Out Boy's older catalog? Is this really a return to form? Is the hype deserved? Let's find out. What are you doing? Let's find out. I moved my camera back a bit. Wanted to see something. The singles leading up to the album's release, Love from the Other Side, Heartbreak Feels So Good, and Hold Me Like a Grudge, showed Fall Out Boy retaining that kind of pop appeal that they had with Save Rock and Roll and American Beauty and Mania, while also tapping into the guitar-driven experimentation that they had on an album like Folie à Deux. Initially, I wasn't impressed by the first two singles. I thought they sounded a little too American Beauty for me. And if you watch my Mania video, you know how I feel about American Beauty. But the more I listened to it, the more I enjoyed it. I started hearing that classic Fall Out Boy sound and something a bit cinematic. One of the things I thought was really interesting about this album rollout was the movie references. In the lead up to the album's release, Fall Out Boy would release snippets of each track on their Instagram reels, accompanied by artwork that was kind of paying homage to famous 80s and 90s movies. Escape from New York, Lost Boys, stuff like that. And Fall Out Boy are no strangers to movie references, with songs on their first album being named after Rushmore quotes.
We'll tell that stupid Mick he just made my list of things to do today.
And of course, we can't forget the Little Less 16 Candles video. As a movie nerd myself, I love that shit. I love when bands just like have so many movie references and like quotes from movies as songs. I did that when I wrote songs too. It's great. I love it. The whole album has a sort of cinematic vibe to it. Love from the Other Side is a perfect opener for this. It has like that great kind of build up and crescendo to like just these smashing guitars. I'd say it's on par with Thriller from Infinity or Disloyal Order of Water Buffalo from Folly. It's almost like this album was the soundtrack to a movie that was never made. Does that make sense? Patrick Stump has stressed that this album is not a throwback album, despite everything about the album. Instead, he said it was more of an idea of what it would sound like if Fall Out Boy released an album after Folly instead of taking that hiatus. And I definitely hear some of that. There's a definite pop rock sound as opposed to the more like polished 2010s radio ready sound that Mania had. It reminds me a lot of Viva Las Vengeance. Both bands experienced massive success with these huge pop albums, and then they just kind of drifted away from the spotlight for a while to come back with these genuine guitar-driven pop rock albums. And no, I'm not done defending Viva Las Vengeance. It's a good album. This is my channel. This album feels like a Fall Out Boy album. I liked Mania more than most people did. And Save Rock and Roll and American Beauty are good in their own ways, I guess. But so much for Stardust feels like Fall Out Boy. You have punchy hooks mixed with Joe's guitar and Andy's drums. You have Pete's lyrics that are simultaneously dark and sharp and witty and funny at times. Patrick's melodies and singing are just top notch, as always. That guy could sing the phone book. Do we still have phone books? Are they still a thing? I'm gonna get a phone book.
Tomorrow.
Never mind, I couldn't find a phone book. You even have Pete doing a spoken word poetry interlude. That just screams Fall Out Boy. The whole album just has the vibe of a classic Fall Out Boy album. Patrick says this isn't a throwback album, but come on. I think my favorite songs have gotta be songs like Fake Out, What a Time to Be Alive, and the title track, So Much for Stardust, which ends the album. These songs really sound like a return to form for the band while retaining that pop appeal. This is why I can't do reviews. I just keep repeating the same thing I've been saying over and over again. I'm not a good reviewer. I'm not a good critic. I could do without tracks like Heaven or Iowa. It's a little like just too slow for me. Just kind of too much on like the down swing. And it's at the beginning of the album. Kind of took me out of it for a bit. But other than that, I don't have any real complaints for the album. It's very interesting and unique and creative and just fun to listen to. And any album that can incorporate a classic Ethan Hawke monologue in the year 2023 is a 10 out of 10 in my book. For real though, this album is what we were all hoping it would be. Everything I've seen of the album, from the rollout to the videos to the interviews, it just looks like the band is having fun. They're back in their element. They're doing what they do best. They're not trying to appeal to everyone and sound like Imagine Dragons or Maroon 5. Which, no shade on those bands, they're fine bands, but Fall Out Boy isn't that. Fall Out Boy is punchy hooks, guitars, and that's what we got. I don't know how to score an album. When I did the track reviews, I think I just ripped off Anthony Fantano's scoring methods. And I figure, why change it up now? So Much for Stardust is a good return to form while also showing new aspects of the band. I think I have to give this album a strong 8. Transition. What did you think about this album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. Also, let me know if you want to see more reviews. I'm not really sure about these kind of videos, but if you like them and want to see more of them, I'm sure I can figure something out. I'm not a very critical person. At least not with music. I just sort of vibe, you know? That's gonna do it for today's video. If you like what you saw, I highly recommend hitting that thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. Talk about music and music culture, specifically things like pop punk, emo, alternative, but also things like hip hop and indie rock and jazz. I also recommend sharing this video with every Fall Out Boy fan in your life. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by summertime, and liking and sharing this video as much as you can really helps me achieve that goal. With that, I'm Trevor. Stay uncool. And that's the end of the video. Goodbye.